Now we come to what Webb thinks is his biggest point. It better be good.
What's really cool, though, is that Jarrah picked two seemingly unconnected articles to disprove the LRO photo, but in actuality, the two articles are consistent with one another. They back each other up. And contrary to Jarrah's analysis, they both support the LRO photo. In the Clementine article, the black splotch, indicating the presence of iron oxide, defines a circular area with up to a 150-meter radius. Jarrah even points that out. Coincidentally, the crater that JAXA thinks is brighter than other nearby craters is completely contained within this 150-meter radius. I'm actually borrowing a graphic from Jarrah's video for this demonstration, so I hope this scale's correct. But what's most interesting is that if the lunar module is sitting in the middle of the disturbance, then the JAXA halo, which amounts to only 16% of the total area of disturbance, is just off to the side and well within the area of disturbance. So, the JAXA halo, if it exists, ends up being the oh-so-obvious visible sign of a disturbance that Jarrah says should be present based on the false color image.
Okay, so what's wrong with that? Let me remind you. I said the brightness is coming from these two large impact craters. Craters. Craters is plural, as in more than one. As you can see, in both the LRO photos and the JAXA photos, and ironically in even the Apollo 15 photos that Webb shows, the lower crater also has a bright halo area. True, in some photos it's not as bright as the top crater, but it still needs to be accounted for. Obviously, the 150-meter bar fits nicely across the diameter of the crater. Now let's turn it vertically. Still seems to fit across the crater. Now let's add another bar below that to make up the other half of the circle. What do you know? The second crater fits just inside the other side of the radius. If we do a circle around this region, we find the alleged lunar module kissing the edge of the circumference. It's barely within the circle at all. So much for the LEM being within the center of the oh-so-obvious disturbance. Consider also these smaller craters around within this radius. As we saw in the Chandrayaan-1 photos, their brightness will add to the overall halo. The sunny sites may appear as separate halos, or one single enormous halo merged together depending on the camera resolution. Since we're discussing Phil Webb, I might as well finish up with this.
I just assumed, as most faithfully and observant propagandists out there, that we would eventually send probes to the moon and send back images of the Apollo landing sites, and that would finally silence the moon hoax conspiracists. After all, even Bill Kaysing, the founding father of the conspiracy theory, said that when we did that, he would admit he was wrong.
Here is the statement that Webb refers to. It comes from the Fox TV show of 2001.
I would like to invite NASA and all of their supporters to simply take the most powerful telescope on Earth and see if there's a lunar lander there. If there's a lunar lander there, I'll never say another word about an Apollo hoax. If there's no lunar lander there, I'll rest my case.
Note his choice of words. The most powerful telescope on Earth. He specifically referred to ground-based telescopes, not NASA-controlled space probes. Optical telescopes that anyone can look through with their own eyes and see for themselves. Fair enough. That would certainly count as first-hand proof to anyone. Propagandists tend to quote Bill Kaysing out of context along these lines. When Kaysing died, Phil Plait wrote this.
In the Fox TV show, he was quoted as saying that if NASA pointed Hubble at the moon landings, it would show clear evidence if they were real, and further said that if he saw those pictures, he would stop making his claims. First, Hubble cannot see objects that are small on the moon. Second, NASA returned literally thousands of images from the astronauts themselves. Why would he believe a few more from Hubble?
I have just showed you the clip from that very documentary. We all know that Phil Plait has a copy of that special. He even takes it to his anti-moon hoax lectures.
Landing on the moon. But believe it or not, some people say it never happened.
This whole thing is a fake.
Decide for yourself as we explore the evidence.
The Eagle has landed.
Analyze official government photos on conspiracy theory. Did we land on the moon?
Wasn't that exciting? Okay.
On my end, I have 5 copies of this TV show. One that I taped off the telly when it first aired on Channel 10 in 2001, the second when it rerun on the same network, an MPEG format recording from the History Channel that a computer whiz friend gave me, and the last 2 copies were left to me by Ralph René. I watched every last second of this show, which I admit is not a program without fault, and nowhere does anyone even mention Hubble. So Plate is just lying here, again. And in the same paragraph, Plate claims that Casing alleged that any space travel is impossible.
I will concede that certain unmanned vehicles might have made it to the moon. The Russians are supposed to have sent some unmanned vehicles to the moon, and possibly our surveyor did land on the moon. Possibly our surveyor did land on the moon. Possibly our surveyor did land on the moon. Possibly our surveyor did land on the moon.
I have repeatedly asked Plate to substantiate these baseless accusations against Bill Casing, and he has refused. That's because he knows he can't substantiate these claims. The fact is, Phil Plate is a proven pathological liar who deserves no respect from anyone and should shut up publicly. That's what would be best for the world. I could give you a laundry list of Phil Plate's deliberately dishonest statements, but we're already delving far off topic.